If you want a quantum leap, let me tell you, the fastest way to quantum leap is through the door of your shadow, your trigger, your trauma, all those things that you think that you need to protect yourself from. No, we cannot. We cannot save everybody. At a certain point, you just need to say like, nope, that's not my project. Not my monkeys, not my circus. It's okay if you get hurt. It's okay if you make a mistake. What's not okay is if you keep circling around the same merry-go-round, feeling stuck your whole life and wondering why you're not growing. Today, we're going to talk about energetic boundaries and how we can energetically protect ourselves and make sure we're not inadvertently blocking ourselves. The question is, how do we protect ourselves energetically? And what about karma? How does karma involve in this? So this question is coming from you guys, direct from my comments. Thank you so much for your questions. The first question I would ask, if we were in a coaching situation, I would get really curious. What are you protecting yourself from? When you ask, how do I protect myself energetically? My question to you is, what are you protecting yourself from? And this is a really important question to answer. Our ego has a lot of fears, but our soul has very few. The small parts of us want to be protected from everything, all of life. But the truest part of us doesn't really need any protection at all. It is the eternal, immutable part of us, our spirit and our wholeness. And in this life, part of this life's journey is to be able to discern, what is it that my soul really needs? And who are the people that are really serving my soul? And that doesn't mean everyone serving your soul is making you happy. Sometimes the people we need the most are the ones that poke at us. Absolutely, 100%. So that question, who or what are you protecting yourself from? That's what I want you to get clarity on first. Sadly, the world has lost its mind when it comes to how we think life should be. As someone who has worked in the trauma-informed space with women around sex, love, and relationships, I don't say this lightly at all. But I do think there's an issue with feeling too triggered. I think it's a problem, and this cancel culture is not helping anybody. To only live in a safe padded room is not life. I had a mentor once tell me, because I used to always preach embodied safety, embodied safety, embodied safety. And he said, but is it really possible to guarantee safety? No, you actually can't guarantee anybody's safety. What you can guarantee and what you can cultivate is inner security. So the fact that we're alive is always going to come with risk. We cannot control everything. We can't control the weather. We can't control other people. The only thing we can control is ourselves. Square one, how we protect ourselves energetically, is just to get right with our expectations. You've been led to believe that anyone who triggers you should be eliminated from your life, then I disagree. I think the people that trigger us are some of our best teachers, most important teachers. Let me explain. In my early 20s, I had a desire to move to Europe and to get my master's degree. I had a program picked out, I had been accepted, and I was ready to go. Just months before I was planning to move to Europe and begin this whole path that I was super excited about, I met a boy. And this boy was like no one I had ever met. This boy was a bit of a bad boy, and there was something in my soul that was so intrigued and captivated. And I remember there were red flags right from the beginning, and being in relationship with him right from week one was a roller coaster. I have these plans. I'm so excited about these plans. I have this whole vision for my life. I want to live in Europe. And here's this boy who has a tattoo of the American flag on his arm and who has never traveled outside of the country and has no desire to travel outside of the country either. He loves Cadillacs and Harleys and was in complete contradiction to my dreams of this elevated and sophisticated life in Europe. I mean, opposites attract, right? So I was falling for him, and I knew I was at a crossroads, and I honestly didn't know what I should do. Driving home from his house late one night, I had this moment with myself, and I was like, I know what it feels like to choose the intellectual path. I had already gotten my degree at that point, so this master's degree wasn't exactly out of left field. But I had this moment with myself, and I was like, I know what it feels like to choose the path of the intellect. I love the intellect. It's so stimulating and so exciting. But my heart was begging to be broken, actually. It was begging to fall in love. And I knew the risk of love. Deep down, like that wisdom is there. We all know if we're going to love deeply, if we're going to risk that, we're also going to risk the pain, the heartbreak, the anguish, right, of love. And in that moment, I knew that I wasn't going to Europe. I was going to see where this path with this boy was going to take me. And I kind of had a hunch that it wasn't going to end well, but I knew I needed to walk this path anyway. Lo and behold, to this day, he's still one of my biggest teachers. Turns out there was a significant soul connection. He's the biological father of my 18-year-old son, and our story has had lots of twists and turns. It's been a very challenging and enriching life. And I wouldn't trade it, even though to this day, he still triggers me. There's no one that can trigger me like him, except for my son. And I consider him one of my greatest teachers, honestly. So the energetic protection thing, who are we protecting ourselves from? What are we protecting ourselves from? What are we afraid of? If we're afraid of a broken heart, if we're afraid of actually living, if we're afraid of any kind of failure or rejection, that's not a real fear, and we don't need to protect ourselves from that. There may be good reason why our soul is leading us down this path. Okay, and I say this with a huge caveat, huge like red label warning, like be careful what I'm telling you. Like I really need you to do your inner work to discern what is your soul telling you. And do not let your ego be all tricksy. Do not let your codependency and your trauma bonding be all tricksy and tell you it's a soul thing when really you know you're over this. You're over the pattern. You can move through this. You no longer have to keep choosing that same boy or that same situation. You're over it. But until you're over it, you gotta experience it. And that's just the facts. So let me just say, not always do we need to protect ourselves. If I had protected myself energetically in that situation, my son would never have been born. And I do think there's a reason why he's here. That being said, we don't need to protect ourselves from everything or everyone that may hurt us. But we do need some forms of energetic protection. And I believe it's mostly from embracing the lies. And this is kind of protection from ourselves, from the own inner critic or our own shadow and demons that want to tell us that we are awful, that old programming, whatever it is that got in there, that snuck in there, it's a lie that some part of us, that deep subconscious part of us is embracing. That is what we need protection from. And if we go outside into the world, there are energy vampires and we can protect ourselves from them too. Because when it comes down to it, the question is this situation, relationship, helping me to evolve, teaching me things at the soul level that I'm here to learn? If it's not, if it's just a distraction or a waste of your breath, that's the kind of thing we need protection from. There are so many energy vampires out there, and there's so many just negative people that don't really serve us. Their commentary on life, their fears are not ours, their issues are not ours, and we need to protect ourselves from that. So a simple thing to do that I like to do is energetic, is to wear my crown of light. That crown of light, when I imagine wearing that crown of light as a form of protection, energetic protection, it brings me into alignment with my deep wisdom, my deep truth, my essence, and I walk out into the world aligned. Head, heart, and honeypot, as I like to say. Honeypot is another word for body. So mind, body, spirit aligned, wearing that crown of light. And I imagine that this light is almost like a force field. Like what is for me reaches me. What is not for me is repelled away from me. It's as simple as that. And if things icky do get in, like someone just treats me poorly or says something rude, I do not let myself react to it. I feel the feeling in my body and then I neutralize it. And I neutralize it in a really fun way. I'll teach it to you. I activate the inner queen and I say, I allow it. I allow it. Whatever happens, whatever someone says, I step into that queen and I just say, I allow it. That immediately puts me into a position of power instead of the victim. It's a little game I like to play with myself. If you want to learn more about how to activate your inner queen and all these other beautiful feminine archetypes that can help you access different states of consciousness that can really help you move through struggles and resistance and stuckness in your life, then Heal Your Own Gaze is the course for you. I'll leave it in a link in the description box below, and I highly recommend you check it out. But you could start doing this now. Just start playing with it and see how it feels. Wearing your crown of light, activating that inner queen, just simply speaking, I allow it. Your kids say something, your husband says something, someone cuts you off in traffic. Take a breath. I allow it. I allow it. Doesn't mean you have to like it. It just means you're not the victim of it. It's not happening to you. Right? This is what matters. Karma. Let's talk about karma for a moment and how it relates to this. Karma, at the end of the day, is our relationship with life itself. And do we believe this is happening to me or this is happening for me? Karma, things are going to happen. We either come into this world with stuff, with gunk, with things we need to process because of our own past lives, or maybe just because of our DNA. Maybe it's not something we actually live, but maybe we're carrying the gunk of our ancestors. So whether you believe in reincarnation or not, everyone agrees we come into this life with some stuff, with some gunk to work out. Is that karma? So karma can be really disempowering if you believe, man, this is just my lot in life. I guess I deserve this. Maybe I was an awful human being in my past life and now I deserve this treatment. Yeah, that's a really disempowering place to be, because what can you do from that place? You're the victim. You're powerless. You're believing that life is happening to you and you deserve the bad that's happening to you. But you could flip the script and say, you know what? In this lifetime, everything that happens is happening for me. Everything that happens is happening for me. And this doesn't mean that you just whitewash everything and you put on a huge smiley face and you're like, I never have any problems, I'm always happy. No, it just means that, all right, I'm going to assume that whatever happens and however I naturally respond to it, this is fuel for my soul's evolution and growth. I'm going to allow myself to feel all the feelings, the triggers, the anxiety, that rush of panic, that pit in my stomach of fear, that hollowness, that inferiority, that shame. Whatever it is, the first step, okay, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it fully. I'm going to identify exactly where in the body it's holding that memory. Whether it's karmic or biological, doesn't matter what it is. It's living in you now, and it's here to serve you, to help you evolve, to help you grow. So you feel it, and then you neutralize it. You don't have to go from feeling that horrible feeling to feeling happy or to feeling optimistic and hopeful. Your first step is to just get to neutral, and neutral happens through acceptance. I accept that I'm feeling this. I allow myself to feel this. I am safe even as I feel this. And you can use any number of the embodiment techniques I teach on this channel or any of my courses to help you through that. But that's the outline. You feel the trigger, you welcome the trigger, and you decide that this trigger is going to be a portal. Whatever trauma has reawoken, it's a portal for you to quantum leap. If you want a quantum leap, let me tell you, the fastest way to quantum leap is through the door of your shadow, your trigger, your trauma, all those things that you think that you need to protect yourself from. No, if you want to slow down your journey and make it last 20, 40, 50, 60 years, try to live in a padded room or in a padded world and never be triggered, never be in a relationship with people who challenge you, only be friends with people who think the same way as you do, who look the same way as you do. Yeah, that's a recipe for a disaster. I remember I fired a couples therapist once because basically he said my job as a wife was to make sure I never trigger my husband. And that's just something I fundamentally disagree with. I do believe in co-regulating and the ability to create a safe space together, but I do not believe that it's my fundamental job as a wife to never trigger my husband. And I told my husband that. We've been married over 15 years now. We talk about everything. But 10 years into our marriage, we were having some issues and I was growing and evolving and thinking these new thoughts, and I really wanted permission to think new ways about being a woman, being a wife, about my sexuality, about our relationship. And it was triggering to him. And to his credit, he agreed with me we should fire that therapist and learn how to work through these triggers. True love always involves some form of letting go. And in marriage, what I've learned, we have to let go of this idea that our partner is responsible for creating our perfect world. We got to get rid of this idea that our partner or anyone else is responsible for our happiness, our joy, our sense of security in ourself. That is our job. And the only way we can cultivate that is by being in relationship with people who throw us off, with people who make us feel a little bit insecure, right? That's how we grow. That's how we learn how to find our own center. There's so much to say on this, and there's so much nuance, and I really hope that you hear me through the ears of discernment and soul instead of the ego, because I think that could be very problematic, and I might receive some comments below from people who might be misunderstanding me. We'll just go through it. We'll just live through that experience and we'll get to the other side. But for right now, this is what's on my heart to share with you. And to answer the question about how to protect ourselves energetically. First, who or what do you think you need to protect yourself energetically from? If it's your ego that needs the protection, then maybe let it slide. and lean into that fear, lean into that discomfort, lean into being outside of your comfort zone. It's okay if you get hurt. It's okay if you make a mistake. What's not okay is if you keep circling around the same merry-go-round, feeling stuck your whole life and wondering why you're not growing. And number 2, really get clear on what it feels like to live in alignment with your soul. What I've learned is that your soul, she is such a strong source of direction. But that does not mean where she leads you is to happiness, peace, bliss all the time. There is a journey to go on. There are mistakes to be made. There are life experiences to be had. This is my belief. This has been my story. Maybe I'm a young soul. Maybe you're an old soul and you don't have to live through your own life experiences. You can live through other people's like mine. But what I have learned for me, my soul has led me into things that were necessary for my growth. Someone could have told me to avoid that, but I wouldn't have listened. I really needed to go through that experience myself. So at the end of the day, what I'm protecting myself from, a lot of the times it's within me. It's the old stories, that part of me that, I don't know, sides with the devil. Like, it's just like that, like death craving part of me that is so cruel. It can be so mean, call it what we want, the inner critic, the death mother, the devil, like, I don't know. So for me, a lot of the times what I'm protecting myself is from myself. That's what we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves from embracing the lies, embracing any lie that tells us that we are not worthy, that we are unlovable, that we are not enough, that will never be enough, that this is the end, that things aren't going to get better. All those lies. That's what we need to protect ourselves from. And on the outside world, the majority of the time, what we're protecting ourselves from is just the energy vampires and the naysayers and those who are just stuck in fear and icky stuff that is no longer ours to work through. We do not have to fix everybody. We cannot. We cannot save everybody. At a certain point, you just need to say, like, nope, that's not my project. Not my monkeys, not my circus, right? This is what my mom always says, not my monkeys, not my circus. And how we can protect ourselves from that is simply, like I shared, using the crown of light. And there's so many other practices and tools I can share with you in future videos, but that's just to get you started. And to know that your karma comes down to your belief is this punishment or is this possibility? Whatever life hands you, you've seen the bumper sticker, you've seen the inspirational quote on Pinterest, right? Say it with me now. Life doesn't happen to me. Life happens for me. This isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. If you have that mindset, things begin to shift. I'm going to end the video right there. Hope that answers your question, or at least plant some interesting seeds for deeper introspection and growth. I'm so happy we're doing this together. It's an honor to be a guide for you. I'm Morgan D. Cecil, your feminine embodiment coach and a new kind of manifestation guide. And I look forward to your next question. So do you have a question for me in the realm of feminine embodiment, relationship, love, sex, God, money, manifestation? I would love to hear it. Leave it in the comment section below, and maybe your question will be answered in my next video. As always, remember, you can trust what lights you up. What lights you up leads you home. Take supremely good care of yourself today. I love you all so much. Grace and peace, and I'll see you back here real soon.